New Central Television. This is the program where we bring you up to speed with all the political happenings on the African continent. I am Benga Aboroa.
And I am Rita Omodia. Now, on today's edition of The Conversation, it's a new week and there are lots of political events across the continent. In Nigeria, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has started announcing the results of the Gubernatorial and State House of Assembly, which was conducted across the country last Saturday. From the exercise, 28 state governors and 993 state lawmakers are expected to be elected.
Meanwhile, members of the Economic Freedom Fighters EFF in South Africa trooped out in the numbers across the country to protest the deplorable state of the nation, asking President Cyril Ramaphosa to find a lasting solution to the situation or resign his position as the president. Quite a day of protest across the continent. In Kenya, as we speak, the Azimio coalition led by Raila Odinga, he was tear-gassed at some point, and quite a lot of high-stake drama in Kenya. And also, we've seen protest by the EFF in South Africa. National shutdown.
I think the major two things we're seeing from these two protests is they're complaining about, first of all, in Kenya, the illegitimate government. Remember Raila Odinga and William Ruto.
The so-called handshake. Supreme Court has presided over that and said William Ruto.
Well, he's not backing down. He's still bent on the fact that the government is illegitimate, and he's also accusing William Ruto of high taxes in Kenya and the fact that the cost of living is high.
I guess we'll have to see what happens, but I think they're treading on the dangerous part. Like, be your opposition, but allow the government to do its job.
And just to add a few, on Friday when we had discussions of South Africa's protests, our guest said that we shouldn't be alarmed by the protests, saying that the EFF doesn't carry much weight in South Africa, but that's not what we are seeing today.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing the true situation of things if the protest was effective. By the way, it ends at midnight South African time, so we can't necessarily judge. Yeah, but let's begin in Nigeria, where the citizens voted on Saturday to fill governorship positions in 28 states, 1,021 constituencies, and 993 state assembly seats. This is coming weeks after a much disputed presidential election in which some states witnessed protests, ballot box snatching, and thuggery, much to the displeasure of citizens. Complaints of results not being transmitted electronically eventually led to the reconfiguration of the bimodal accreditation system machines and postponement of the elections to March 18th.
Some of the results released by the Independent National Electoral Commission so far include Jigawa, Katsina, Benue, Sokoto, Lagos, Gombe, Ogun, Yobe, Katsina, Jigawa, and Kwara states, where the ruling All Progressives Congress has been a major beneficiary. The opposition party, People's Democratic Party, cleared Akwa Ibom State. And now joining us for this conversation, we have Olugbenga George, is a political analyst. He joins us from Abuja in Nigeria. We also have Professor Danoye Oguntola Laguda, is a professor of religions and peace studies at the Lagos State University, Nigeria. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the conversation.
It's my pleasure being here.
All right, so Professor Danoye, you witnessed the elections. We had the presidential elections on February 25, and subsequently the elections were postponed for Gubernatorial and State House of Assembly. And on March 18, 28 states went to the polls. What was your general assessment of the Gubernatorial and State Assembly elections?
Well, I would say that the election has come and gone, and then we have to take the lessons from them. Sincerely speaking, I am impressed with what happened overall. But then there are some little details that need to be taken care of for the future. But then that is why I said that anything that happened in the life of any nation is a matter of history. And then we have to always learn from such history. We have to give it to the INEC for doing the job as expected. We also must admit that there are a lot of weaknesses in the process, but then it is not enough for us to throw the baby away with the bathwater. I mean, technology is bound to malfunction in some instances. Beavers, we were told, did not function properly in some cases. INEC has promised us in the presidential election that beavers we use to transmit results online before the manual collation will be done. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, and we all witnessed the protest and the walk away of some party agents at the National Collation Center in Abuja. So I think lessons were learned. At the gubernatorial election, we must also admit that the same thing seems to repeat itself. Of course, we read in the news that some results were actually uploaded, and then some results have been put on hold for review and before they are announced. I mean, this is talking generally across the nation. That's what we gather from the news. But then it's also important to note that there were cases of violence, there were cases of voter suppression, there were cases of voters' apathy, and then there were cases of some thuggery, violence, and ballot box snatching, and the rest of them. But then we must give it to the workers, those who really volunteer to work, even though they will be paid, and then the security agents too. They did a human job. They did a very good job. Unfortunately, there's nowhere, I mean, when we look at it in Africa and we look at the trajectory of our political history in Nigeria, that you will not want to say that they have done well, because the rate at which people want to snatch ballot boxes and then people want to disrupt the process was reduced to BRS minimum. I think it is something that we can take lessons from, because then it's a good work.
Thank you, Prof. Benga, are you there? Benga George, political analyst in Abuja.
Right here.
Okay, right thank you. Thank you very much for joining us on the conversation. Now, compared to the presidential elections, INEC had 22 days because of the postponement to prepare and improved some of on the complaints people made in the previous elections, the presidential elections. What's your assessment of INEC's performance for the gubernatorial elections?
Well, this is a sweet and bitter question, really, I must say, because after the presidential elections and all the complaints that emanated from the process, a lot of us thought that the postponement, by 1 week would have given the commission enough time to be able to fix some of the issues during the governorship elections and state houses of assembly elections. But unfortunately, what we witnessed, I witnessed a few myself, what we witnessed isn't as expected. Well, going by the performance of some of the devices, we would say the devices worked maybe optimally, I mean, in some places that we monitored. But talking about the results now coming out in the way that people actually looked at them, I wouldn't think, or I wouldn't accept that it was totally a credible result that was declared in some parts of the country. Yes, there were some that were incontestable, but there were a whole lot others, that are highly contestable. And even up till now that we speak, you realize that they're not even confident enough to declare the result or in certain places. A lot of people are worried already. For example, in Adamawa State, where you would have expected that by now, the result has been declared. We've seen the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party issue a press statement around 2 p.m. today to say, look, this ought to have been declared, and whatever INEC is doing, they need to understand that they are putting the people on the edge. It goes to show that there's still a whole lot, that needs to be done with the Independent National Electoral Commission and election management and conduct in this country.
Now, still talking about election management. Now, Professor, we're still looking at the presidential election and a lot of dissatisfaction that came over it. Now, out of over 83 million Nigerians that collected their PVCs, just about 27% participated in the presidential elections. We also know that after the election, there are lots of complaints from the opposition, from citizens on social media with all the election thuggery, violence that happened. Do you believe the turnout of voters in the gubernatorial elections was affected by the dissatisfaction witnessed at the presidential election, or was there some sort of improvement?
I think I agree with your prognosis. It's very important that we agree that there was voters' apathy. There's no running away from that, and that was because of the hype, the kind of environment that was built towards the particular election. People were afraid. People were fear. People. They were expected, they are not sure of what could happen to them or what could be the aftermath of the election. And because of violence as well, some people felt the security apparatus may not be enough to protect them, going to the police station and polling stations, and they decided to stay at home. You will agree with me that the PVC was collected in great numbers, and then you will expect that 27% turnout is too low, where you have adequate voters' education and where you have adequate confidence by the voters in the process. Some people have their PVC, but they will state categorically, sorry, I don't want to vote. I'm not sure. And then if you put that side by side with the seemingly suffering of the people, the naira crunch, the cash crunch in the economy, and the fact that people felt that economically they were not there, and why would they go and suffer again at the polling station, queuing up for hours to vote and perform their civic responsibilities when they know that going down the years, based on experience, 4 years, they may not get dividend of democracy. So you can put that aside for voters' apathy. Then we also have to look at what happened when we still start thinking that our election should be determined by tribal, ethnic, and religious sentiment. If you look at the demography of the result of the presidential election, this tripod has been the main issue in our election demography. And I think we should be maturing by the years. 1999 down the years, 24 years, we should be talking about the fact that people should be able to vote across, this ethnic, tribal, and religious sentiment, and vote for competence, vote for integrity, and be able to vote. So all these things are the issue. If you bring it out of that presidential election, because there seems to be a contradiction between those tripod I've mentioned and the eventual result of that election, where a Yoruba man emerged the president-elect of the country. But then if you bring it down to the gubernatorial election in states like Lagos, in states like Rivers, in states like Oyo, Ogun, Ekiti, Kwara, and even if you go up to Adamawa, you go to Enugu, you go to Ebonyi, and the rest of that, what you find is voter suppression. People are not particularly allowed to vote, and some of them the fear of the unknown kept them in their house, and then they refused to come out. So you can understand that. So nobody who is a political watcher or analyst will be impressed by the fact that.
Now, I would like to, permit me to interrupt you here, because you did mention voter suppression. And because you're a professor of religion and peace studies, I particularly want to direct this question to you, Prof. We've seen a polarization in terms of ethnicity, the type of language that has been used during the campaigning period, especially in Lagos, where the the major contestants for the post of governorship are Yorubas, but you find a situation where a section of the country they felt like outsiders. The type of rhetoric that senior members of a political party used to describe members of the opposition was quite shocking. So where do we begin to teach lessons and penalize that these things do have serious consequences? They could they could affect the peace of the state. And how do we begin to build bridges? Because a lot of relationships have been fractured as a result of the politicking.
Yeah, very correct. Many people have lost friendship, associates, and the rest of them because of this great division that we have witnessed during the two major elections that we are discussing this evening. But one thing that is clear is that, unfortunately, our electoral law did not address this new dimension, these new things that we have witnessed in this last election, when we have to suppress some people from coming out to perform their civic right, or we try to talk about ethnicity, we try to talk about tribalism and the rest. But then I felt that the 2015-2019 presidential as well as gubernatorial elections across board, especially in Lagos, which you have cited as example, will have been a springboard to move us forward in terms of voting across this divide. Unfortunately, it didn't work out this time around, and that is because there were a lot of social media hypes, social media fake news and news that may not be, they may not necessarily be correct representation of the situation, where some people felt that they were asked to leave, vote for me, or if you don't want to vote for me, don't bother coming out, and this and that. So you will understand that. But look at the result. If you start looking at the result we have so far, even where what has been declared, you will not run away from the fact that some of these issues are being addressed, or the results are coming contrary to what we have. I've been trying to confirm this information that a particular Abiola, which is a Yoruba name, got won an assembly election in Abia State. That is still yet to confirm, but that is something interesting. And we are not to my brothers from the eastern part of Nigeria, winning elections in Lagos as well. But then you never can say. It is just a function of when we start carrying it beyond the politics, and we are not talking about the land. You know, Africans generally, Nigerians generally, hold tenaciously to their lands. They don't want to negotiate their lands. And when they don't want to negotiate their lands, if you now start claiming ownership of their land, they want to fight at all costs and say, no, you can't take our land from us. And I think that was what was wrong in the build up to the gubernatorial election, which we did not see during the presidential election. The freedom that we witnessed during the presidential election, for example, in Oyo State, Ogun State, and Lagos State, was not the same that we had in the gubernatorial election. But for me, I think we should start thinking of bringing laws. I mean, while we are planning for the next general election in 4 years' time, we should try to look for ways of bringing some measure of sanction on people who will come out and use this kind of sentiment to prevent people from going to the poll or going to the polling station to cast their vote. So I think majorly this is very important going forward, that we have to look at that. And look at the way religion also indicate, kind of determine where you want to vote and how you want to cast your vote. You see a lot of prophecies. You see a lot of assumptions that will turn into prophecies. You see a lot of clerics, senior clerics for that matter, coming out to make claim. God said, when God has not said anything.
So do you think that they should not have interfered with the political structure or with the politics in the state? Do you feel that
they are Nigerians. They should come up and say something. But then they should not bring religion into it by saying God said or God revealed to me. Those sometimes create problems. When you say God revealed to me, your members, the members of that particular church, we accept it as coming from God. But then if the contrary becomes the case after the election's result, what happened? And that is the problem.
All right. Okay, I want to bring Benga into this. We're still having discussions of the window of change and how far Nigeria has gone in the Democrat dispensation and the political realm. Now, with the emergence of the third force, the Labour Party and the presidential election, it made headlines. We saw the Labour Party gain a lot of votes, and even in areas where they were controlled by the ruling party. Now, for you, Benga, looking at the results of the Lagos state elections, we talked about how ethnicity and tribalism affected some major parts, especially in Lagos state. Talk about the candidate of the APC and the Labour Party. But Labour Party as an emerging party that controlled so many states in the presidential elections, how would you rate the activities and general performance of the Labour Party from the election results so far? Do you think it's just about the presidential elections, or the Labour Party still has a grip in some of the gubernatorial elections that we had?
Well, from the results that have been declared so far, I think the Labour Party only has one state, and that is Abia State, where Dr. Alex Oti emerged as the gubernatorial governor-elect. But to talk about the entrance of Labour Party to the political space, I think it's something that is very important right now, because one of the things that a lot of pundits say has affected the political process so far is the fact that there has been no active opposition, in the Nigerian electoral and political system. That the PDP, which was supposed to be the leading opposition, has not, been filled that space so much. But when you compare what the Labour Party has been able to do in, mobilizing Nigerians, especially within such a short period, I think we must begin to understand that indeed opposition may be coming. So you talk about their performance in Lagos, but I think we have to look at it at in other states, where they won seats. In the Federal Capital Territory, for example, they won the senatorial seat, and that senatorial seat has been occupied by the PDP for for a long time. So to see the Labour Party come, defeat an incumbent party, that has been in power for so long, to also see them clinch the House of Representatives ticket, in the Federal Capital Territory, I think is a very strong message for the Nigerian people to know that there is this yearning, for the Nigerian people to want to participate in governance, but they just need an entry into it. So yes, the Labour Party appears to me to be that force that the Nigerian people can identify or associate with. And that's why we see the results that we have seen so far. But nevertheless, I think they still have a bit of a challenge in being able to, appeal to people in the democratic process. For a lot of people who, support the party, do not really know, what it means, to participate in a democratic process. They just believe we have gone out, we have voted, and then because we vote and we look like this number, this is what we should have. So I think they have to understand that the Nigerian people generally, and the people supporters of the Labour Party, I feel, need to understand now that elections and it's a competition. And it is keenly contested in a country like Nigeria, that is very wide, that's very massive, and there are a lot of political interests, and there are a lot of people, who have perhaps taken politics as a career over the years, who have taken time to build structures and institutions. I know, whenever we talk about structures, they say, who has structure helped? But the truth of the matter, okay, is that to some large extent, people who have been in the political scene have been able to create lasting impressions and understand that there is a system, for people to follow, to be a part of partisanship and all of that. So for me, the Labour Party is indeed the third force as far as I'm concerned. And they may likely be the coming opposition, in subsequent elections, if they are able to maintain the momentum, that they brought into the 2023 general elections.
Thank you, Benga. Now, Prof, as we wrap up our conversation, what lessons can we learn as a people from the conduct of the elections? And for the first time in Nigeria's modern history, we saw interest of young Nigerians in the electoral process. A lot of them are quite disappointed, and they've been vocal about it, especially the conduct of INEC. And one of the reasons why they weren't participating in the political process in the past is because of a lack of trust in this state institution. So going forward, what will it take to sustain the interest of young Nigerians in the political process, and for them to also understand that it's not just elections that make it a democracy? How do they keep their representatives accountable and all of that?
I think it's important to take it from your closing statement that how do they plan to hold to hold their representatives. I mean, those who have won senatorial seat, representatives, House of Assembly. A very young lady at 26 is now going to be a member of the Kwara State House of Assembly. How do you hold them accountable for development going forward? So I think it's very important. It's a matter of engagement. They need to engage their representatives, those who have won an election on their ticket, and those who are youth who have also won an election on other parties' ticket. They need to annex them, bring them together, and push the youth agenda. I agree with you that there is trust issue in these young ones do not really trust the process. And because they are yet to trust the process, there were initial apathy. But then going forward, post 2020, October 10 NSAS issue, they believe they can actually wrestle power from the power that be. And then that was the kind of momentum they took into the presidential election. Unfortunately, as it is now, it has not worked for them. But then going back to the gubernatorial election, I think that really rubbed on what the performance of Labour Party in the gubernatorial election. But then that is not to take anything away from those who have won the election and the expectation that some result will still go the way of Labour as well. But I think it's very important, even when you don't win an election, and we are the third force, like you have said, like Benga rightly said. I mean, you should engage government. You should engage them in conversations that will improve our democracy. So much so that you will start pushing national agenda and not the agenda that will be premised on the tripod that I've mentioned earlier on. Agenda that will talk about sustenance of democracy, agenda that will talk about development, about our cultural development. I mean, basing our economic, socio-political, development on our culture is very important. It is not just to borrow the culture as you are wholesale and then want to supplant it within another culture. It may not work. But sincerely speaking, I think the youth have really dropped a statement. And then it is for the political elite to admit that these guys have come to stay and they have a stake in the democracy of this nation going forward.
All right, thank you, Professor. Now, finally, Benga, I mean, one of the things we looked at is that about 11 governors were fighting to come back for the re-election. We had in Lagos State, we had in Adamawa, Borno, Ogun State, Kwara, Oyo State, and Ogun State. Somehow, once again, Lagos State, the incumbent governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, was able to maintain the control of the state. How do you think the role of the incumbency played out in this election?
Incumbents, I think what we have in the election is a scorecard of the people. And in many states, I've seen, I've watched, the results being declared so far, that many incumbents actually had to struggle. When you look at the preparation for these elections, especially in Lagos State, you mentioned Babajide Sanwo-Olu, for example, you would realize that the competition was funny. I mean, you wouldn't expect, for me, as far as I think, that a sitting governor, would have so much to do in terms of talking to the people. He just needed to show his scorecard. But we saw, a lot of drama and theatrics, from the incumbent governor. It goes to tell that incumbents right now know that they will not always have it like they always used to have it, that it's a new dispensation entirely, and that if they do not sit up and deliver the benefits of democracy to the electorate, especially the Nigerian youths who are waking up in their prime at the moment, that they may be sitting on the keg of gunpowder, they may just be kicked out, or they may perhaps have a lot of people to maltreat at the end of the day when the people decide, to rise up and take their mandate.
All right, thank you so much, Benga. Unfortunately, I think we'll end this conversation here. We'll still continue. I mean, we have collation of results in some parts of the state, and we do await the result. Thank you so much, Olugbenga George, a political analyst all the way from Abuja, and also Professor Danoyo Guntola Laguda, a professor of religious and peace studies from the Lagos State University, Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.